books are attacking Twilight, but she isn't fighting back. It's like she can't actually bring herself to harm a book.
We could probably psychoanalyze a lot from these characters if we spend more time on these dreams. Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep was an interesting episode on several fronts. There was a lot of character development for one of the most popular princesses, hilarious gags, decent action scenes, the story was mostly solid, and most importantly, the lesson it demonstrated was both relatable and applicable. However, the most divisive aspect of this episode is the dream sequences of the main six. While many commentators find them funny, it seems a fair portion of them also find these scenes more so flanderizing of the characters. I'll acknowledge the possibility of both realities since I personally don't know these writers and so can't make that judgment. However, something I don't see being discussed is what the dreams could mean as a literal look inside of the characters' minds. After a little bit of research, I reached out to someone who seemed to enjoy speculating on it as much as I did to see if together we could figure out what these dreams may imply in terms of advancing characterization.
Dreams are viewed by many to provide a unique perspective into our subconscious, and ever since Freud pioneered the somewhat controversial psychoanalytic dream interpretation process, people have enjoyed arguing over what their dreams may say about their innermost desires and motivations. Some so hidden that they may be unknown to the dreamer himself.
With these things in mind, let's see what may lay beneath the surface of our favorite characters, shall we? I'd like to go in the order that the episode took, so let's start with Rarity.
This is simply divine!
From a simplistic or perhaps even a meta standpoint, is flying dresses the best that we could do? Is there nothing that we can pull from the subconscious of this character that has been shown to be quite complex with a wide range of emotional responses and conflicts both internal and external? They're just dresses, and they're all the same. This, however, is where the deeper possibilities strike me, and I'm compelled to bring up a couple of different common types of dreams that I found in my research. One of these dream archetypes is called factual. It's described by an article on dreamstop.com as being an affirmation of something the dreamer already knows to be true. In this case, Rarity, who is quite confident in her passions and abilities, spends much of her time surrounded by her art.
When Luna shows up and begins decimating the possessed dresses, Rarity's reaction was notable as she picked up the tattered cloth and bemoans the destruction of
Such a pretty little chiffon!
In my view, Rarity has always been a character that seemed to contradict herself. I mean, she's covetous of things which she calls pretty, yet at the same time, she does display some pretty powerful moments of genuine generosity. But on occasions like this, when she threatens horrible retribution for ruining a fabric, I see her at her most materialistic, and I'm reminded of why my opinion of her is a bit sour.
With that in mind, this could also be classified as a warning dream. She still sees that which appears quote-unquote avant-garde as something that she would enjoy being around. But after the events of Sweet and Elite, she sees, on a subconscious level, that those who she wants to associate with are hollow figures that float around and do nothing. They're empty suits, and worse yet, they're all the same.
The idea of the dresses representing empty suits is a brilliant way of looking at this dream. The Canterlot elite, among which Rarity wishes to be accepted, appear to be plagued with ponies like Jet Set and Upper Crust, who I really see as embodying this empty suit thing quite well. Not only could this dream be warning the fashionista of peril posed by these ponies, but it may also be an admonition to not become a dancing yet empty dress herself.
There's also Rarity Takes Manhattan to consider, where she was used maliciously as someone else's stepping stone when they couldn't stand on their own talents. The empty suit metaphor is slightly different, but still fits the same way.
If this dream is an augur from her subconscious of the pitfalls of empty dresses, her reaction to the destruction of just such an item might be a hint that she's not very receptive to these exhortations.
Perhaps not at the moment, but the potential for that change is certainly there. And with that, I think we can move on to Pinkie Pie.
Sorry, can't help it. An idea popped into my head and... Ooh,
Typical Pinkie, she can't concentrate long enough on a single dream. This is an obvious symptom of her unfortunate case of adult attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Bringing the entire town of Ponyville into her dream may also be symbolic of Pinkie's ingrained fear of being alone.
That's an interesting perspective. I think it means something slightly different though. Dreaming of others could imply a couple of different things, one of which would make this a wish fulfillment dream, showing us places that Pinkie wants to go or things that she wants to do, like sharing ice cream with those that she cares about. There's also the idea that dreaming about other people is generally interpreted as a personification of various aspects of an individual's personality for the purpose of addressing aspects of their lives that they believe need more attention.
And which aspects of herself do you think Pinkie believes need more attention?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think I'm stumped on it from an educated standpoint. However, my own speculation would lead me to believe that this might be practice for her sympathetic side, which is something that we see her struggle with in cases like A Friend Indeed, Philly Vanilli, and Maud Pie. Although she reached a milestone in this during Pinkie Pride, she's probably still got a ways to go. Whether or not that's the case, we'll probably never know. However, I'm slightly more confident in my theories regarding Fluttershy.
It's so nice to be the pet for once.
My first instinct here is that her role reversal with Angel Dream was a sign that she might have an unfulfilled need for affection rooted in her at times unhealthy levels of introversion.
I don't believe it's introversion that is causing Fluttershy's unfulfilled need for affection. Rather, it's her inability to interact with others due to extreme social anxiety, which may be the cause. I guess it's just a personal nit that I picked because introversion, a trait I actually do share with Flutters, refers more to the tendency to turn inwards for peace and to recharge. As such, it's not something one could have at unhealthy levels, really.
You've got a point with the difference of introversion and anxiety, but I think they go hand in hand with her. So it wasn't much of a surprise to me when some of the articles that I found suggest that the presence of animals within dreams is a subconscious way of acting out repressed desires. That said, I don't believe it's much of a stretch for Fluttershy to want to receive the same type of care that she gives to any of her pets, especially if she can't bring herself to reach out to anyone she knows in that way.
What her dream really does, without a doubt though, is prove, hopefully once and for all, that Angel is not evil. For in order to become evil Angel, he had to be transformed by the Tantibus into some creature that resembles but isn't quite Angel. So hopefully we can go ahead and let this falsehood die here. Angel's a good bunny. Which brings us to that there apple-loving background pony.
Now this is what I call an incredible dream.
She sure does love her some apples. I wonder how many she could eat. It's only fitting her nightmare would be seeing all them trees turn to rot. Poor Philly. But hey, on a more serious note, could the trees be some sort of allusion to some strange worry about her family? Perhaps she sees the destruction of the family apple orchard as actually some sort of corruption of her actual family?
That's a heck of a theory. I thought it was the complete opposite, falling under the theme of success, which is commonly believed to be a good omen. But it might also be a subconscious coping method for what happened during the Bats episode. Sure, she was willing to make sacrifices to save Fluttershy, but that doesn't mean there's no disappointment from losing her prize-winning apple as well as a piece of her farm. As much as I would have liked to stay in Applejack's dream a little longer, the episode moved right on to Rainbow Dash, who I believe is demonstrating a power fantasy driven by the thrill she gets from diving headlong into danger.
She obviously thrives on conflict. The mare loves to kick butt. In fact, she still apparently has a vendetta against changelings. It may be a good thing she wasn't in the building for Cranky's wedding. I'm sure things could have gotten out of hand pretty easily.
The list goes on, including the entirety of the mysterious Mare-do-Well and Daring Don't, being the first to threaten the Flim-Flam brothers, engage the changelings, and her human counterpart seemed to itch for fisticuffs when she learned about the sirens. Rainbow Dash has a need for action in her life, thus lending this dream to the compensatory theme, which is similar to the aforementioned wish fulfillment, but different in the way that the individual feels these things are needed in their lives rather than just wanted.
I admit though, her nightmare is quite creepy. It keeps me up at night just just thinking about it.
Indeed. The cutesy backdrop and flowers juxtaposed with menacing voices and sharp teeth could easily confuse and frighten someone, especially if it's a sudden transition from a relatively pleasant place for them. It's like being trapped in a room full of Furbies and Mogwai.
Speaking of getting annoyed by things that are supposed to be good, if I were sitting at the library trying to read, I think I'd find having all these books flying at me quite distracting. How can you finish a whole book or even properly absorb what you're reading with all this junk flying around?
My first guess would be that the books fly to her as she needs them, and she either needs several books for one subject, or the subject that she's thinking of changes frequently.
I also noticed that when the books begin to attack, Twilight refuses to fight back. Obviously, she refuses to harm any book, even if they are obviously possessed by an evil presence.
I can definitely get behind that theory. Ultimately, the closest I could come to pinning a theme on Twilight's dream refers to an article from themindunleashed.org, which offers two possible explanations. The first being Twilight's dreamscape as a house, which may simply represent the inner mechanisms of Twilight's psyche. The other possibility being that of learning, which may represent Twilight's thirst for knowledge or her learning process as a whole.
What you said about her dreamscape as a house reminded me of a technique some people use for memory that actually may fit inside Twilight's dream. Many people have been known to create memory vaults, which are basically imagined worlds that are highly detailed, containing objects that help the person remember things. The Hannibal Lecter series of books by Thomas Harris actually shows some of this in action. Perhaps Twilight's library world is actually a memory vault, and each book represents a different memory? I mean, surely it would be a device she would choose. In essence, when we see her sitting there reading books, she may actually be meta-dreaming, that is, choosing to remember certain events as each book passes by. In fact, this theory could also explain her reluctance to attack the books. Beyond her obviously innate desire to never harm one, destroying a book would be akin to killing off a memory.
You've got me there, Corpulent. I don't think I could come up with a better theory if I tried. But while these things have been interesting to speculate on, at the end of it all, I must wonder if any of these dreams were portrayed realistically in the first place. Pulling from my own experience, dreams tend to be more like what was shown during the episodes of Luna and the Cutie Mark Crusaders. I've heard theories that dreams are the result of the subconscious trying to prepare us for various scenarios by simulating them. But accepting Luna's dream at the beginning of this episode, none of these dreams share those qualities. This tempts me to examine the meta perspective and ask if the themes that we've discussed here are truly present or if it's a matter of contrivance and stereotyping on the part of the writers. What are your thoughts, Corpulent?
Well, obviously, everything you analyze on the show needs to be viewed through the prism of the human writers behind the scenes. But still, I do believe for the most part, the dreams were fitting for a main six. I mean, a realistically portrayed dream might be beyond the ability of anything in reality, and people perceive their dreams differently. Additionally, I believe dreams play a much more complicated role than just simulating potential future scenarios. While I know this does happen, I also know from experience that dreams are often a way to summarize and understand recent events, to fantasize in an unrealistic reality.
That's a very good point. Thank you for your insight, Corpulent. So now comes the part where we turn the floor over to the audience. Let us know what you think about any of these points, if we're wrong or have missed anything, and we'll be sure to discuss it further. If you have anything you would like to hear discussed or reviewed, you can drop your suggestions by following BrawnyBuck on Tumblr or sending an email to bronydebates@gmail.com. Be sure to check out Irish John's channel for some funny short films, as well as MechUser23's channel for some cool gameplay videos, and thank them for all of their support. Feel free to check out my Patreon to see how you can support my channel and what you'll get in return. Big thanks to all of those supporting me already. Have a great day, and I look forward to hearing from all of you soon.